The New Year's Eve phone call from the past. It was New Year's Eve, and Clara was home alone. Her friends were busy with their own plans, and she didn't feel like going out. The sound of fireworks in the distance was a reminder of the new year approaching, but the quiet of her apartment felt oddly comforting. At exactly 11:55 p.m., her phone rang. The screen showed a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated before answering. "Hello," Clara said, her voice shaky from the sudden ring. "Clara, it's me," the voice on the other end whispered, low and familiar. It was her best friend, Sarah, but something was wrong. Sarah's voice was different, distant, almost like she was speaking from far away. Clara's heart raced. "Sarah? What's going on? Where are you? Are you okay?" The voice on the phone was calm but haunting. "Clara, I'm trapped. It's midnight here, but it's not the same midnight you know. I need you to listen carefully. You have to stop what you're doing, or you'll end up like me." Clara froze. What was Sarah talking about? The voice continued, growing colder. "You'll know soon enough. The call is the last warning. Don't trust the clock. Don't trust the time." Clara tried to respond, but the line suddenly went dead. Panic surged through her. She called Sarah back, but the number no longer existed. Frantically, she checked her phone's call history. It was gone. Her screen showed nothing but a blank space. At midnight, Clara stepped outside for a breath of fresh air, trying to shake off the fear. But something felt wrong. The city seemed eerily silent. There were no fireworks, no cheering, no sound at all. And then she heard it, the same voice coming from behind her. "Clara, I told you not to trust the clock." Clara spun around, her heart pounding. There was no one there, only a shadow shifting at the edge of her vision. And then it hit her. She had just spoken to someone from a time that wasn't hers. Someone stuck in a past that had never existed, and now she was trapped too. The clock ticked on, but time had stopped for Clara forever. A New Year's Eve invitation no one should have accepted. The invitation arrived in the mail 2 days before New Year's Eve. You are invited to a private, exclusive party. Midnight will never feel the same. No return address, no signature, just elegant golden letters embossed on thick paper. It looked too perfect to be a scam. Despite the oddity, Alex and his friends were intrigued. They'd never been to anything like it. The venue was listed as an old mansion on the outskirts of town, far from where anyone would typically celebrate. New Year's Eve arrived, and they found themselves standing at the gates of the mansion, which loomed in the darkness like a giant looming over them. The front door creaked open as they approached, and an unsettling chill swept over them. No one had answered the doorbell, yet it was wide open, beckoning them inside. They hesitated for a moment, but eventually entered. The house was dark except for flickering candles lining the walls and a grand chandelier overhead. A soft, eerie music played in the background. A man in a tuxedo greeted them at the door. "Welcome. We've been expecting you," he said, his smile cold and almost too wide. The guests were all strangers. No one recognized anyone else. But the drinks flowed, the music played, and the clock ticked closer to midnight. As the countdown began, Alex and his friends started to feel uneasy. There was something off about the other guests, something unnatural. Their laughter was too hollow, their eyes too cold. And then, just before midnight, one of the guests disappeared. Alex searched frantically, but no one could find her. The other guests acted like nothing had happened. Then as the clock struck 12, everything went silent. The room went dark. In the pitch black, Alex heard the sound of footsteps, followed by a voice that chilled him to his core. "It's time. Now you belong to us." Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, revealing that the room had changed. The mansion was no longer lavish, but decayed, as though it had been abandoned for years. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and the air was thick with an unnatural presence. The man in the tuxedo reappeared, but this time, his face was twisted with an evil grin. "Welcome to the eternal party, where time does not pass. You'll never leave." The door was locked. Alex and his friends tried to escape, but each room they entered only led them deeper into the mansion. The guests were gone, replaced by ghostly figures that seemed to materialize from thin air. staring at them with lifeless eyes. The clock had stopped ticking. The party never ended. And the invitation? It wasn't an invitation. It was a trap. The New Year's party that turned into a nightmare. Emma had always been excited about New Year's Eve. This year, however, something felt different. She had received an invitation to a fancy party at a luxury hotel, an event she couldn't resist attending. It promised everything: music, dancing, drinks, and memories that would last forever. When she arrived at the party, the hotel lobby was sparkling, filled with people she didn't recognize. The atmosphere was perfect, too perfect. The music was loud, the laughter infectious, but something lingered in the air, an unease she couldn't shake off. At exactly 11:30 p.m., the lights flickered. Everyone paused for a moment, unsure if it was part of the show, but no one seemed alarmed. Then just before midnight, a strange guest arrived, a man in a long black coat. He had piercing eyes, and the instant he stepped into the room, the temperature dropped. The music stopped, the air grew thick, and all the guests turned to look at him. "I have a gift for the chosen one," he said in a deep, unsettling voice. No one spoke, but they all instinctively knew the gift wasn't meant for them. Emma's heart raced as the man walked toward her. He handed her a small, ornate box with strange markings on it. "Open it at midnight," he instructed before disappearing into the crowd. As midnight drew closer, Emma couldn't resist. She opened the box. Inside, there was nothing but a dark, swirling mist. Before she could close it, the mist poured out, swirling around her like a cloud of smoke. The room began to change. The guests' faces twisted, their eyes glowing in the dim light. The chandeliers above cracked, and the floor started to tremble. The air grew thick with an oppressive, suffocating force. Everyone screamed, but no one could escape. The clock struck 12, and everything went silent. The guests were no longer human. They had transformed into twisted, grotesque figures, all staring at Emma, their eyes filled with malice. The man in the black coat appeared again, his eyes dark and empty. "You were chosen. This is your reality now." Emma tried to run, but the hotel doors were locked. The walls closed in. The new year had brought a nightmare she could never wake up from, and the party, her party, had turned into her worst fear.